My younger sister Chloe has always had a flair for drama. Not the fun, entertaining kind of drama, but the toxic, soul-draining kind that leaves everyone around her in pieces. And she always had the same excuse ready to go. She lost her one true love. For years, Chloe has clung to that story like it was her ticket to being selfish, manipulative, and cruel. And the worst part? My parents let her. She claimed it all began with a guy named Daniel. They met at some college party years ago, hooked up once, and that was it. No texts, no calls, no second date. Just a forgettable night for him. But for Chloe, it became an obsession, her twisted origin story. She decided that because she couldn't have Daniel, nobody else deserved happiness either. It started small. Her best friend since childhood, Hannah, found Chloe in bed with her boyfriend one morning. Chloe's excuse? You don't understand what it's like to lose your soulmate. Hannah never spoke to her again. At our cousin's engagement party, Chloe cornered the groom in the bathroom, whispering how he reminded her of Daniel. He pushed her away, but my cousin cried for weeks. And still, Chloe claimed she was just triggered by love. I learned early to protect myself. I didn't let boyfriends near her, kept her off my social media, and avoided mixing my love life with family. And for a while, it worked. That is until I met Mark. For 2 years, we built something solid, private, safe. I thought I had finally outsmarted Chloe's chaos. But the moment I let my guard down, she pounced. Mark and I had been together for 2 years when he proposed. It wasn't flashy, just us on a quiet evening walk by the river when he pulled out a ring and asked if I wanted to spend forever with him. I cried, of course, and said yes. It felt perfect, like all the pieces of my life had finally fallen into place. We planned a small ceremony, just family and close friends. Nothing big, nothing dramatic. And for a while, everything was smooth. Until my one mistake. I mentioned it at Mom's birthday dinner. Chloe's eyes lit up like fireworks. She hugged me too tightly, her smile a little too wide. "Oh my God, Liv, I'm so happy for you. When do I get to meet him?" she asked, her voice sugary sweet. My stomach turned. She hadn't asked about any of my boyfriends for years. Suddenly, she cared? That was my first warning sign. A week later, Mark showed me his phone, laughing. "Your sister found me on Instagram with some weird fake account. Look at these messages." He handed me his phone and we scrolled through her desperate attempts. Lines like, "You look so familiar. Do you believe in soulmates?" I wanted to throw up, but I forced myself to laugh along with him. She's just being Chloe," I said, downplaying it. Mark shook his head. "Don't worry, I'll block her." But I knew Chloe. Blocking her wasn't enough. When she set her sights on something, or someone, she didn't stop. She'd find another way. And unfortunately, I was about to find out just how far she was willing to go. 3 weeks before the wedding, I came down with the worst flu of my life. Fever, chills, the whole package. Mark was supposed to spend the day at his brother's golf tournament, and I stayed in bed, bundled up in blankets, barely able to keep water down. Around noon, I got a text from my friend Emma, who happened to live near Chloe's apartment complex. "Hey, weird question. Isn't that Mark's Tesla I just saw in the visitor parking lot?" My chest went cold. I texted back immediately. "Are you sure?" She replied with a photo, clear as day, Mark's car. I wanted to believe it was a coincidence. Maybe he stopped by to drop something off. Maybe Chloe needed help. My head spun with excuses. But deep down, I already knew. Shaking with fever, I drove across town and used the spare key Chloe had given me years ago for emergencies. When I opened her apartment door, the sight knocked the breath out of me. There they were. On her couch, Chloe's head in Mark's lap, his hand tangled in her hair, both of them half-dressed. Chloe looked up at me with tears already forming, fake as glass. "Olivia, I'm so sorry. He reminds me so much of Daniel. Daniel. Always Daniel. Her soulmate excuse, dragged out like a shield. Mark didn't even try to explain. He didn't stand. He didn't chase me. He didn't fight for us. He just sat there, silent, guilty. And in that moment, I knew my relationship was over. But Chloe, she thought she had won. She had no idea what was coming next. I stormed out of Chloe's apartment, my fever burning hotter than the rage in my chest. I didn't even slam the door. I wanted them both to sit there in that silence, choking on their betrayal. Back home, I lay in bed, shaking, but not from the flu anymore. Every memory of Mark, every laugh, every kiss, every promise turned sour, poisoned by the image of Chloe's smug face on that couch. That night, between coughing fits, I scrolled through Instagram. My thumb hovered over a familiar profile. Daniel Harper, Chloe's so-called one true love. Except here's the truth Chloe never knew. Daniel and I had already been following each other for years. We'd exchanged the occasional like, a comment here and there. He was 3 hours away, working as a physical therapist. His feed was full of gym tips, travel snapshots, and photos of his golden retriever, a normal, grounded guy, not the fantasy Chloe built up in her head. On impulse, maybe fever-driven, maybe rage-driven, I typed out a message. Hey, this is weird, but my sister has been obsessed with you for years. She just ruined my wedding. Want to help me ruin her back? I expected silence, maybe even a block. But 12 minutes later, a reply popped up. Wait, Chloe? The girl who once showed up at my mom's house out of nowhere? I remember her. I'm in. My fever broke that instant. For the first time since I caught them, I laughed. Not a bitter laugh, but a real one. Because suddenly I wasn't just a victim. I had an ally. And Chloe had no idea what storm was about to hit her. Daniel and I started talking every day after that. At first, it was about Chloe, her obsession, the stunts she pulled, how she'd even once shown up uninvited at his mother's house years ago. He told me how she spun some delusional story to his mom, claiming they'd been tragically separated soulmates. His poor mother had actually believed her for a moment, even invited her in for tea. Daniel sent me screenshots, selfies Chloe had taken with his mom, even an old audio message of his mother apologizing for causing trouble. That's when it hit me. Chloe wasn't just destructive, she was calculated. She didn't know how to love, only how to possess. And when she couldn't have something, she destroyed it. But this time, she underestimated two things. I was done letting her walk all over me. Daniel was ready to play along. So we made a plan. A slow, meticulous revenge. Not screaming matches or messy confrontations. No, Chloe thrived on drama, and I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Instead, I would give her silence. A silence filled with pictures, smiles, and subtle daggers straight into her fragile little fantasy. Daniel would come to visit me the weekend of our father's birthday dinner, a family event Chloe would never miss. And me? I'd show up with him, hand in hand, like we'd been a couple forever. Not only would she lose Mark, she'd lose Daniel all over again. Only this time, she'd have to watch him choose me. And that, I knew, would shatter her more than anything I could ever say. The week before Dad's birthday, I could hardly sleep. My nerves buzzed like electricity under my skin. Every time I pictured Chloe's face when she saw me walk in with Daniel, I felt both guilty and giddy. Guilty because part of me wondered if I was stooping to her level, but giddy because I knew she deserved every second of it. On Friday, I drove to the bus station to pick Daniel up. I half expected it to feel awkward, meeting him in person after weeks of planning through texts, but the moment he stepped off that bus, tall, broad-shouldered, with a warm grin and a bag slung casually over his shoulder, all the tension vanished. "Melissa?" he said, opening his arms. I nodded, and before I knew it, I was hugging him like we'd known each other forever. On the drive back, we rehearsed our plan. What to say, how to act, where to sit. He was sharp, quick with ideas, and surprisingly funny. The kind of man Chloe would never be able to manipulate, no matter how hard she tried. That night, we stayed up late on my couch, scrolling through Chloe's old posts, the dramatic captions about heartbreak, the indirect soulmate quotes, the not-so-subtle digs at me. Daniel laughed so hard at one of them, he nearly spilled his drink. "You realize she's been living in a fantasy novel where I'm some kind of tragic hero, right?" he said, shaking his head. "Good," I replied with a smirk. "Tomorrow, she gets her final plot twist." The next day at 1 p.m., Daniel and I parked in front of my parents' house. I wore a new dress, heels, my hair perfectly done. He took my hand as we walked to the door. I didn't feel nervous anymore. I felt ready. The house was already buzzing when we arrived. Relatives chatting in the living room, the smell of roasted chicken drifting from the kitchen, kids running through the hallway. A perfect backdrop for what was about to unfold. Daniel squeezed my hand as we stepped inside. My mother came over first, her eyes widening at the sight of us. "Melissa, and this is Daniel," I said smoothly, smiling as if introducing my long-term boyfriend. "We've been seeing each other for a while. Thought it was time you all met him." Mom blinked, clearly caught off guard, but she smiled politely and welcomed him. Daniel shook her hand like a gentleman, calm and confident. And then I heard it, Chloe's laugh. Loud, fake, floating from the living room where she was entertaining my uncle. She turned her head mid-laugh and froze when she saw us. Her expression died instantly, her face shifting through shock, anger, confusion, all within seconds. "Everyone," I said, projecting my voice just enough for the room to hear, "this is Daniel." The name hit her like a bullet. Her wine glass trembled in her hand, though she forced a brittle smile. "Daniel! Wow, what a coincidence!" Daniel, cool as ever, gave her a polite nod. "Hi, Chloe. Good to see you again." That one sentence shattered the last of her composure. She stammered something incoherent before plastering on another fake grin. Meanwhile, I sat down on the couch, Daniel's arm around my shoulders, my phone in hand. I snapped a photo, just a casual one of us laughing together, and posted it to my story. I didn't even need to look at Chloe to know she was watching me like a hawk. Her perfect little illusion was cracking. And this was just the beginning. Lunch was served and the entire family gathered around the long dining table. Chloe sat 2 seats away from me, her back stiff, her fork clinking against her plate louder than necessary. I didn't miss the way her eyes darted toward Daniel every few seconds, as if trying to confirm he was really there, really with me. She tried to start a conversation. Oh, she tried. "So, Daniel," she began, her voice just a little too high-pitched, "do you remember that night at campus when—" "I don't think so," Daniel cut her off smoothly, smiling at me instead. "My favorite memories are the ones I'm making now." He squeezed my hand under the table. Chloe's lips pressed together, her knuckles whitening around her fork. Throughout lunch, she kept bringing up random stories from the past, most of which Daniel either didn't recall or dismissed politely. Meanwhile, he leaned into me, called me love, brushed my hair from my shoulder, tiny gestures that said everything without words. Every time he did, Chloe's face twitched as though she were swallowing glass. By the time dessert came, she couldn't take it anymore. She excused herself abruptly, her chair screeching across the floor, and disappeared down the hall. I knew where she was going, and I was already prepared to follow. Because if Chloe thought she could escape this humiliation behind a locked door, she was wrong. This time, I wanted her to face what losing really felt like. I waited a few minutes before slipping away from the table. The voices of my family blurred behind me as I walked down the hall toward the bathroom. Sure enough, I heard muffled sobs from inside, followed by the sound of her fist hitting the counter. I knocked once. Silence. Then a shaky voice. "Go away." "It's me," I said calmly. "Open the door." There was a pause, then the click of the lock. Chloe stood there, mascara streaking down her cheeks, her hands trembling. She looked at me with pure venom. "What do you want? Haven't you done enough?" I leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Just wanted to check up on you. It must be hard, seeing your so-called soulmate holding someone else's hand." "You're doing this just to hurt me," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You don't love him. You're just using him because you know what he means to me." I smirked. "Funny, because you didn't think twice about what Ryan meant to me, or about destroying my engagement. So no, Chloe, this isn't just to hurt you. This is called justice." Her eyes blazed. "He was mine first," she screamed, punching the wall so hard it rattled. "I saw him first. I felt it first." I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. "No, Chloe. You saw him once. He never wanted you." "You created a fantasy in your head and used it as an excuse to ruin everyone else's happiness. But now you get to sit back and watch while he loves me." She collapsed onto the floor, sobbing so loudly it echoed through the hall. My mother's voice floated from the dining room. "Is everything okay back there?" I straightened my dress, looked down at Chloe, and whispered, "Show's over." Then I walked back toward the table, leaving her broken behind the locked door. When I returned to the dining room, everyone was finishing dessert. Daniel glanced up at me immediately, his eyes searching mine. I gave him the smallest nod, our silent code that everything was under control. He smiled and casually reached for my hand again, as if nothing had happened. Chloe didn't come back, not for coffee, not for the toast, not even when Dad cut the cake. Her empty chairs sat there like a warning sign, but no one dared to comment. After lunch, relatives started pulling out their phones, taking pictures, and posting stories. Daniel and I posed together, laughing, leaning close, my hand on his chest. Every click of the camera felt like another nail in Chloe's coffin. Later that evening, as people lingered in the living room, I overheard my aunt whispering to my mom, "Daniel and Emily look perfect together, don't they?" Perfect. The word echoed in my head, not because I needed their validation, but because I knew Chloe could hear it too. From wherever she was hiding, she had to listen to people praising the very picture she always wanted for herself. When we finally left, Daniel walked me out, his arm firmly around my waist. As soon as the car door shut behind us, I let out a shaky laugh. "She's losing it," I said, staring out the window. Daniel smirked. "Good. Let her." But then his tone softened. He took my hand. "Just remember, Emily, this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about showing her that you can't be broken. You deserve better." I turned to look at him, his face calm, steady, grounding. For a moment, I almost forgot the plan, the game, the performance. For a moment, I just felt safe. And that terrified me more than Chloe ever could.
That night, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. First came the text from my mom. "Emily, what did you say to Chloe? She's been crying for hours." Then the ones from Chloe herself, long, messy messages full of blame and desperation. "You don't understand what you've done. Daniel was supposed to be mine. You're only with him to punish me. Admit it." I didn't respond. Instead, I set my phone face down on the nightstand and watched Daniel as he scrolled casually through his own messages. He looked so unbothered, so grounded, that I almost laughed at the contrast. The next morning, however, Chloe escalated. She made a public post on Instagram, her crying selfie, swollen eyes, dramatic caption. "It's hard to watch your own sister steal the love of your life. No one deserves this pain." Within an hour, people were commenting, "Stay strong, you'll get through this." Some even reposted her story as if she were the tragic victim. I stared at the screen in disbelief. "Unbelievable," I muttered. Daniel peeked over my shoulder, then chuckled darkly. She's playing the victim card again, but this time we've got the receipts. And he was right. Screenshots, voice notes, his own mother confirming Chloe had lied about their history. For the first time, I realized this wasn't about defending myself anymore. It was about stripping away Chloe's mask so everyone could see her for who she really was. And I was ready to go all in.
I decided enough was enough. That same afternoon, I drove straight to my parents' house. My mother opened the door, clearly flustered. "Emily, what are you doing here?" "I came to talk," I said firmly, stepping past her into the living room. My dad was seated in his armchair, newspaper folded on his lap. Chloe was upstairs, but I could already hear the faint sound of her footsteps pacing. "Did you see her post?" I asked, looking directly at my parents. Mom sighed. "She's in pain, sweetheart. You should try to understand." "No," I cut her off. "You need to understand, she isn't the victim here. She's the one who destroyed my engagement. She's the one who crawled into Ryan's arms and tore my life apart." Dad's brows furrowed. Mom opened her mouth, but I raised my phone. With a few quick taps, I pulled up screenshots of Chloe's obsessive messages to Daniel, the voice notes where she cried about how she'd make him hers no matter what. I even played the audio Daniel had sent me of his mother saying, "She showed up at my house pretending to be your fiancé." The room went dead silent. "Do you still think she's fragile?" I asked coldly. "Or do you finally see the monster she's become?" Just then, Chloe came down the stairs, her face blotchy from crying. "You're twisting everything," she shrieked. "You've always been jealous of me." "No, Chloe," I said calmly, standing to face her. "I was patient. I was quiet. I let you walk all over me for years. But now, I'm done. The mask is off."
I didn't wait for Chloe to recover her voice. I turned back to my parents, speaking with the calm certainty of someone who'd finally drawn a line in the sand. All those years you excused her behavior, told me she was sensitive, gave her spa weekends and sympathy while she wrecked friendships, ruined relationships, and played the victim. You never saw the damage she left behind because you didn't want to. But now, it's right in front of you. You can't ignore it anymore. My mother's eyes glistened with tears. My father pressed his hand against his forehead, the weight of everything sinking in. Chloe's breathing turned ragged, like she was about to scream again, but instead, she collapsed into a chair, shaking her head furiously. "You don't understand. Daniel was supposed to be mine. He was mine before you stole him." I laughed, bitter and humorless. "Stole him? Chloe, he never wanted you. He pitied you. Do you know what he told me? That one night at college, all you did was follow him around like a lost puppy, and when he tried to walk away, you spun it into some tragic fairy tale? You invented an entire love story in your head and used it as an excuse to destroy everyone else's happiness." Chloe shot up from her chair, face red, tears streaming. She screamed, pounding her fists against the table. "He's my soulmate." I leaned in close, my voice low and sharp. "No, Chloe. He's my choice. And that's something you'll never understand, because love isn't about obsession. It's about respect. And that's why he'll never love you." She froze. For the first time, the fire in her eyes dimmed, replaced by something raw. Fear. Because she knew I was right. The room was so silent I could hear the ticking of the old clock on the wall. My mother finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Emily, please, don't be so harsh. Your sister is fragile. Fragile?" I cut her off, unable to stop the anger boiling in my chest. "Mom, she slept with my fiancé 3 weeks before our wedding. She destroyed Jess's relationship. She humiliated our cousin at her own engagement party. And every time you called her fragile. Do you even hear yourself?" My father looked between us, his jaw clenched, his silence saying more than words ever could. Chloe stood there trembling, her mascara running down her cheeks, but I didn't feel pity anymore. I felt free.
Do you know what's really fragile? Trust, loyalty, love, the things Chloe has shattered again and again. And you still call her fragile. Well, I've had to pick up the pieces of my life every single time she decided to act out. Daniel squeezed my hand under the table, grounding me. His calm presence was the exact opposite of Chloe's chaos. My mom reached for Chloe, trying to comfort her, but Chloe pushed her away violently. "Don't touch me," she snapped, her voice hoarse. "You never understood. None of you ever did. He was meant for me. And you'll all see, this won't last. He'll leave you, Emily, just like everyone else." Her words dripped with venom, but her voice cracked at the end, betraying the desperation underneath. I met her gaze steadily, without flinching. "No, Chloe, this time you're the one being left behind." And for once, she had no comeback.
The tension in the room was unbearable. Chloe stood frozen, her chest heaving as if she had run a marathon. My mother whispered her name softly, but Chloe didn't respond. She just shook her head, muttering under her breath like she was trying to convince herself of something no one else believed. Finally, she stormed out, her heels clicking against the wooden floor until the slam of the front door echoed through the house. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. My father sighed heavily and set down his fork. "Enough," he said quietly. "For years, we've made excuses for her, and look where it's gotten us. Maybe it's time she learns that actions have consequences." It was the first time I had ever heard him speak against Chloe, and for a moment, even my mom looked stunned. I sat there, Daniel's hand still firmly holding mine, and realized something I hadn't allowed myself to admit before. I wasn't just fighting my sister anymore. I was fighting years of a family dynamic where Chloe's chaos ruled everything, and I was expected to endure it. But not anymore. That night, when Daniel and I finally left, I felt lighter. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot. I knew Chloe would try to strike back. But for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of her. Because now, I wasn't fighting alone.
The following week, Chloe went silent. No calls, no texts, no dramatic posts on Instagram. For her, that silence was more terrifying than her usual chaos. It meant she was planning something. Daniel tried to reassure me. "She's running out of ways to hurt you. You exposed her. Everyone knows who she is now." But I knew my sister too well. Chloe didn't stop. She obsessed. And when she felt cornered, she became dangerous. My fear proved right 3 days later. Daniel showed me his phone one evening. "Look at this," he said, frowning. It was a string of messages from a private number. The tone was unmistakable, desperate, manipulative, dripping with false sweetness. "Daniel, I know you're only with Emily because she forced you into it. You don't have to pretend anymore. Remember how good it felt? Remember how I made you feel?" My stomach turned. She was still trying, still clawing at what she thought belonged to her. Daniel deleted the messages in front of me and pulled me into his arms. "She doesn't matter. You're the one I'm here for, and I'm not going anywhere." His words soothed me, but deep down, I knew Chloe wasn't finished. Not yet. And sure enough, her next move was one I never saw coming.
Chloe finally made her grand move at the worst possible time, during our friend Olivia's engagement party. Daniel and I arrived hand in hand, happy to celebrate someone else's joy for once. I thought maybe, just maybe, I could have one evening without drama. I was wrong. Halfway through the night, as the music played and people laughed around us, Chloe swept in like she owned the place. Her red dress was far too glamorous for a simple party, and her smile was sharp enough to cut glass. People noticed instantly. Whispers started. Everyone knew what she'd done, but Chloe didn't care. She thrived on the attention. And then, in front of everyone, she walked straight toward Daniel, ignored me completely. "Daniel," she purred, her voice sickly sweet, "can we talk? Alone?" The entire room seemed to hold its breath. Daniel didn't hesitate. He tightened his grip on my hand and said firmly, "No, I'm with Emily,
and I'm happy." A ripple of murmurs spread across the guests. Chloe's face froze, her fake smile cracking for the first time. For once, she wasn't in control. But instead of retreating, she doubled down. "You don't mean that," she snapped, her voice shaking. "You're only with her to get back at me. Tell them, Daniel. Tell everyone the truth." The silence that followed was brutal, and in that moment, Daniel looked her dead in the eye and said words that would finally break Chloe's illusion once and for all. Daniel didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calmness carried more weight than any dramatic scene Chloe could ever create. "The truth?" he said, steady and clear. "The truth is, you were never my choice, Chloe. You tricked me once, and I regret every second I wasted on you. But Emily," he turned toward me, his eyes softening, "Emily is the woman I choose every single day. She's the one I love, and nothing you do will ever change that." The room erupted in whispers. Some gasped, others exchanged knowing looks. Everyone had heard enough rumors to piece the puzzle together. Now, finally, they were hearing it straight from Daniel himself. Chloe stood there, trembling, her fists clenched, her face a mask of humiliation. For a moment, I thought she might scream, or throw her drink, or storm out. But instead, she laughed. A sharp, brittle sound that didn't reach her eyes. "You'll regret this," she hissed, her voice low but venomous. "Both of you will." And with that, she spun on her heel and marched out, leaving behind nothing but the faint smell of her expensive perfume and the heavy silence of shocked guests. Olivia hurried over and hugged me. "I'm so sorry she did that here," she whispered. But I wasn't sorry. Not anymore. For the first time, Chloe had been exposed in front of everyone, and no one had rushed to defend her. It was the beginning of her downfall.
After Chloe's dramatic exit, the atmosphere at the party slowly returned to normal. People laughed again, the music picked up, and Olivia managed to salvage her celebration. But I noticed something different. For the first time, no one was whispering in Chloe's defense. Later that night, Daniel showed me his phone. Chloe had flooded his messages, walls of text alternating between apologies, accusations, and desperate pleas. "You'll always be mine. She'll never love you like I do. I only acted out because I was scared of losing you." He blocked her without hesitation. No discussion, no lingering doubt. That moment, I realized Daniel was truly done with her. But Chloe wasn't done with us. 2 days later, she posted on Instagram a selfie with smeared makeup, her caption painting herself as the tragic victim. "It hurts when your own sister steals the man you love, but some people never cared about family." Overnight, her post racked up hundreds of comments. Strangers flooded her with sympathy, while acquaintances offered heart emojis and hollow words like, "Stay strong, queen." But what she didn't expect were the replies that followed. Old friends, former boyfriends, even distant relatives started chiming in with their own experiences, stories of manipulation, tales of betrayal, screenshots. Slowly, the narrative shifted. For once, Chloe wasn't the wounded heroine. She was the villain, and the facade she had built for years began to crumble right in front of her audience. I couldn't help but smile when I saw it. For the first time, Chloe was facing the truth. In the weeks that followed, Chloe's world unraveled. The sympathy she had counted on evaporated. People who once defended her began avoiding her calls. Old friends unfollowed her, tired of the constant drama. Even our parents, who had spent years excusing her behavior, finally admitted what I never thought they'd say out loud. Maybe Chloe needs help, and maybe we've enabled her for too long. Meanwhile, my life moved forward. Daniel wasn't just a part of my revenge anymore, he was my partner. He showed up in all the small ways that mattered. Morning coffee, late night walks, holding my hand when I felt the old pain creeping in. Revenge had started the fire, but love kept it burning. One night, as we sat on the balcony of his apartment, city lights stretching beneath us, Daniel turned to me and said, "You know, if Chloe hadn't tried to destroy everything, maybe we would have never ended up here." I thought about it. The heartbreak, the betrayal, the chaos. and how it had led me to something real, something steady. I smiled. Then, maybe for once, Chloe gave me a gift. He laughed, kissed my forehead, and whispered, "Let her watch from the sidelines. We're building something she can never touch." And for the first time in years, I felt free. Not because Chloe was gone, but because I no longer cared if she was there. Her power over me had vanished. Revenge gave me closure, but love, that gave me my future.